Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. Today I'm going to show you how I have added FPV to the Flying3d X6. Now I did plan on doing a full review of the X6, however we've not had really decent weather for me to do that, and also its features don't work very well. That is the GPS features. Now it flies perfect as a quad without using any of the return home, the GPS hold functions, and actually the altitude hold function does work well, but the GPS function doesn't work very well. So I'm going to show you how I have added just FPV setup. Now you might be thinking, well, he may just have a one-off here and he's received a dud. I've got two of them. They are both the same firmware version and they both have the same problem, and that is when you turn the GPS function on, the GPS hold, it's very sporadic how it works. Sometimes it hovers fine and holds in position, but then what I found is it starts oscillating like this, and this is with both versions. First I thought it was the camera that may be interfering, the noise from the camera or cameras interfering with the GPS module up there, but it does it without a camera. Yeah, so it starts to do this and it goes out of control and it flies off. Also, the return to home function, I've had it working a couple of times, but one time I flew really far away, pressed the return home function, and it just landed where it was. So yeah, the features of this quad, if you're buying it for the GPS functions, which I never really was, I just wanted a quad this size, and there wasn't really a quad this size other than the RC Logger, and I really wasn't a fan of the controller of the RC Logger, and I don't have my own hobby grade transmitter yet, so this one comes with a nice transmitter. As you can see, I've made additions to it, and that's what I want to talk to you today about, really, because this one doesn't come with FPV out the box, but it is quite a nice platform for FPV. So I just want to show you the modifications that I have done to this one in order to get it flyable for FPV. So the first thing you'll notice is these aren't the standard props. These are the standard props. They're 3-leaf blades, which I tend to find give a lot of vibration. They give a nice amount of lift, but you don't get a nice battery time with those. So what I have done is I've tried to neatly cut away here so that the 6-inch props clear. As you can see, they just about clear each other, but you get much better stable flight, much more punch. I think probably the same battery time, if not a little better than the 3-leaf. But anyways, that was the first addition to getting this FPV flyable. Of course, you could fly it with FPV with those props, but I wanted to make sure that we got extra punch when we're carrying this extra weight here. So let me show you the next thing that I did. So this here is the Hobby King, not a fan of Hobby King vibration dampener, which I have screwed in to the legs. I haven't drilled any holes. I've drilled 2 holes in the plate of this, and then I can screw it onto the legs so you don't have to make any modifications to the craft there. So then from there you can see that this sticks out the front and you don't get the blades in view from the Mobius. So let's talk about the cameras next. Just using rubber bands for now. I have connected the Mobius here, and it's in the 180-degree view, so it flipped upside down so the buttons don't catch. And then you can see here what this is. This is the V666 wltoys FPV module with an 808 lens on the front. Any of you have seen my V666 review videos. This is the camera off there, and what I like about it is it plugs into the balance port of a 2-cell, which is really handy because this can plug into the quad there, and this one can plug into the FPV camera, and then you can monitor the voltage of it on the transmitter here. I actually got a very small 2-cell battery banded underneath because I was just doing a test to see if we get better flight times. Actually using a separate battery. This is the battery from the Hubsan Spyhawk, and I planned on just powering this from the small 2-cell here, of course, then you don't know what the voltage is of this one. You can't monitor it through the balance port because it's the balance port where you would monitor the voltage from, and it's plugged into here. So yeah, you don't really need to do that. That was just something that I was testing. And also here I'm using a cloverleaf antenna, and you can see here that it does drop below the leg slightly. So what I've been doing is when it lands, that sort of just bends back. It's not ideal. I have ordered a shorter cloverleaf antenna, but it works really well actually for distance, as you will see later. I did a flight and I flew up to about 150 meters, and yeah, I got pretty good video out of that. But like I say, I'm testing a shorter antenna because that is a bit annoying. So on to what I have done for the video receiver wise. So this is the Flying3d transmitter, and you can see here on the neck support where you would normally add a strap, we have this device here, and I got this from Banggood. It is a FPV monitor mount, and then this is the SKY-700, I think it's SKY-700D model. So let me just take that off. It comes with this cover, which I should say can be quite tricky to open. Can you see that? I can't do it one-handed. It really takes a lot of force to get this open. It feels like I'm going to break it, and then it kind of doesn't flip out like some of those do. You have to kind of build it, but it is spring-loaded. It's just not very springy, so you kind of have to open it. That is very good, actually. So let's talk about the monitor. It's got quite a lot of features, this, and it's not a bad price as well compared to goggles. I paid £86 for this, but I used my Banggood coupons. I think it's £99 usually. So this is a 5.8 video receiver. It's got a built-in DVR, and it's got a diversity system here. So you're probably wondering what these are. This is the cloverleaf antenna, which is the opposite to what is on the quad, so that can match up. And then this is a 5-turn helical antenna, and the hope is you've got these two lights here, and whichever antenna picks up the strongest signal, this will flick to, which is quite handy because we can use the 5-turn helical for distance, and then this one for when the quad gets close, which is a really nice feature. So also what I like about this is it's got its own battery compartment, which you can put in a 2-cell battery and it will fit. This is a 1200 milliamp. It's got a JST connector there. But what Banggood do is they sell this battery here specifically for this monitor, and it does fit, but it's come with a Dean's connector on it where it requires a JST connector. So I'm not sure what is happening there. I'm going to contact Banggood support because they specifically say it's for this, and it does fit, but you would have to modify this, which isn't great. So yeah, I really like that it's got its own battery compartment, and now it's got a switch as well. So you can leave this plugged in and switch it on and off. I think some of the earlier ones didn't have this switch, so you had to take the battery compartment out each time. So yeah, let's get on to the actual screen itself. The screen is an all-in-one system, which I like. There's no wires or anything. This is literally all you need to do FPV, and of course you don't need those antennas. It's just nice to have two different styles of antennas. You could use a dipole antenna, one pointed one way, one pointed the other. But this is just my setup. Okay, so let's turn the monitor on. And I just want to point out straight away that this screen is so bright. I've actually had to turn it down to the lowest brightness for this video because the exposure was too much for the camera. Now, what I want to show though is something that I don't like about it, and it's this here. And this OSD. It's nice to have an OSD, but this is a problem. No signal. And what happens is the minute that you start getting multipathing or the signal starts to get weak, this no signal sign comes up in the middle and you can't get rid of it, which is annoying. However, I am getting used to it, and really there is no alternative really to this DVR for the price and the kind of features that you get. So, you know, I am happy with this monitor. It does perform well, but This is a real pain. So what happens is when it does get a signal, this OSD here does disappear, and then you just get your video, which is nice. But when there is no signal, you get all this on here. So down here we've got the voltage of the battery, which isn't accurate. This battery is fully charged and is 8.2 volts, I think, at the moment, but this is 7.4. The voltage isn't right, and this does have the option of a voltage cutoff, so you need to turn that off, otherwise this resets. It kind of tries to have a battery saving mode by turning off when the voltage gets too low, but the voltage reader is right. So this shows you how much space is left on your SD card. This is the date, which is incorrect because I never use the dates. Shows you whether you're an NTSC or PAL, and then this is the capacity of your SD card as well. I should say the SD, it's a micro SD, and it does go into the side there. You've got a USB port for firmware updates. I really hope there is an update that gets rid of that no signal sign, because it's such a pain. And then AV in and AV out, which I haven't tried yet. Another gripe that I have with it, it's not a biggie, but you have this here, which are the dip switches. The other monitor that they have uses buttons to go through the frequencies, which is nicer, I think. But anyways, yeah, make sure you've got a screwdriver on hand when you do this. And also there is a sheet as well explaining the channels. So you might want to keep this sheet with you if you do lots of channel changing, but I don't really do that. So the way that it works is you've got channels 1 to 8, and these are depicted by the first 3 dip switches here. So you've got these control the first channels. Then if we flip over the sheet, so channels 1 to 8 are the first 3, and then all the other frequencies are done by having the other 2 switches in certain positions here. So yeah, that's how it works. I'm not going to go through every frequency, but for example, if you wanted to have 5865 megahertz, it'd be on channel 1. So you would flip all of the levers down on 1, 2, 3, and then also the last 2 levers down to get channel 1, to get that channel, and so forth. So the next one, if you wanted channel 2, you would have the dip switches down like that, but then you would select channel 2 like that. So that's kind of how dip switches work. Like I say, keep that with you if you are planning to change the channels. So one thing that is a big deal for me, it's not for a lot of other people, but it does do 4:3 aspect ratio. In fact, the DVR only records in 4:3 aspect ratio. It's the monitor itself that is allowing the image to be stretched. So if you press the menu button there, and I'm gonna go down to LCD full screen, that means that it's gonna make the LCD fit the screen, but really its native format is 4:3. So if you press, I'm still getting used to these, off and then OK, and then if we press menu, you can see there it's gone to the 4:3 format. So there are lots of videos out there explaining the menu. Just wanted to show you the important ones, really. Well, important to me that I don't think has been covered, and that was the LCD full screen. To me, removing the date stamp is important. So you can go in there and change, well that one is just a whether to have it on or off, but I keep it off. Memory info, don't really need that. It shows you how much memory is on the card. Format lets you to format the SD card. Language, date and time, change the date and time. I probably should do that. Default resets defaults. Beep turns this annoying beep off. I don't know why anyone would want it, but there you go. Oh, awful, isn't it? Whoop. Okay, let's turn that off. TV standard's quite important, depending on what your VTX is transmitting. This particular one is NTSC, but of course you can change it to PAL. And as I mentioned earlier, the battery type I've got on ignore, because if you have it on 2S and it's getting the voltage wrong anyways, it's going to shut off, and it may happen while you're flying. So yeah, you don't want to do that. So, oh, and another thing that I do like, let's just go back to the main screen. If you press playback here, it will play a video that is on there already. So it's quite a nice feature. If you've just done a DVR recording, you can watch it straight back. You press OK in the middle, and then that is gonna play what you have recorded. I quite like that feature. But let's go and check the video footage that this did record. I'm gonna place it into the video timeline and also show you what the Mobius recorded. Now I will say that the wind is incredible. It is about 25 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, and it has been for a good while. It's about 7 weeks, so it's not going to be the smoothest video, but I just want to show you that FPV is possible with this, and it's quite a nice setup actually. And the flight time is around about 5 minutes, so let's go check that out. Okay, so what I have done is I have spliced the Mobius footage and the DVR footage together. As you can see, it's changed there. So I should say actually that annoying OSD that you have on the screen is not present on the DVR footage, which is quite nice. So you've only sort of got to put up with it while flying. You can see here that the quality is much lower than the Mobius camera, but this is, like I say, you can see the slight interference there. This is the DVR footage, and really getting some nice clear footage there. You see the difference between the Mobius camera there. As I mentioned, it was almost unflyable this weather. Into the wind I was putting full stick in, and it was barely moving forward, and this is quite a powerful quad with these 6-inch props on, so not the idealist of situations, but I didn't want to wait until the summer to make a video, and I was making a video anyway, so I thought I would do a kind of review of the monitor and sort of show what I was getting. So we're coming up to the trees there, and it flicks into the DVR footage, and you can see there 150 meters away, perfectly clear video. Obviously a couple of multipathing and breakups there, but nothing major. Now I should say that I have scaled this footage into 16:9. Now the camera from the V666 is unusual for an FPV camera, as in it does transmit in 16:9. So from an FPV perspective, it's a wonderful experience because you can stretch the screen and get the full 16:9 size. But when the DVR records it, it records it in 4:3, so I have stretched it back. So yeah, getting quite close to the trees there, and you'll notice when this flicks back to the DVR, it's not as wide of an angle as the Mobius. I do have one of the Banggood 170-degree wide-angle lenses coming in the post. It's the size M7 screw, which is the same thread as the 808-16, and that's going to give a wider field of view, but this was fine for FPV, so I didn't have a problem. I just thought, seeing as we're using the Mobius to get the footage, might as well have the widest angle on the FPV camera. I think here I flick between the Mobius and the DVR footage to show that the FPV camera actually captures the light better there. As the Mobius flicks back, the ground is dark. That is one good thing about this camera, and what you kind of should expect from an FPV camera really, is that when the camera's pointing to the sky, it favours the ground for the exposure, so you can still see the ground. And the Mobius doesn't really do that, but none of these action cams really do that. The latest GoPro does it better, but yeah. So actually here I put the quad into GPS hold mode, and this is what you get in GPS hold mode. This is the quad flying itself. It's getting very low and it's just drifting. Fair enough, there is a lot of wind, but I had to take it out of that mode. It just doesn't work very well at all. I think we come in for a landing here. I try an FPV landing, but I think it's just too windy. So I ended up doing line of sight And there we go. So yeah, that is my FPV setup. Thanks a lot for watching, and please subscribe for more videos. Cheers.